Hello, Mensa. This is Sergio Rodrigues, and I'm excited to be a part of Humans of Telecom.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host Anurag Aggarwal, Chief Growth Officer at Globe Teleservices. This week is particularly special for the podcast as we have crossed 1,000 followers on LinkedIn. To all the listeners and supporters, just want to convey my immense gratitude for all the love and support. It's amazing to see how well this podcast has been received by the CPaaS community and the interest and enthusiasm it has generated amongst all of us. Talking about enthusiasm, we feature today an individual who is a powerhouse of energy. He has been in this industry for about a decade now, and his high spirits make the party that much livelier. Rumor has it that he is also a loyal follower of this podcast. So please join me in welcoming Sergio Rodrigues, Commercial Director at Annecto Telecom. Sergio, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this journey. We'd love to hear more about you. Which part of the world do you belong to? And from where are you joining this podcast today?
Hey, Anurag, thank you so much for having me, man. I'm very excited to be on the podcast. And also, congrats on the 1,000 followers. I saw that this week. Very exciting. I think we can get to 2,000 very soon.
Hope so.
Yeah, I really hope so. I think it's been great growth. And, even people in my office around here, I've got a new starter. She's not from the industry. She's been loving it. She said she's picking up a lot of things as well, and also just goes to show like the great group of people we work with in the industry. So
Awesome.
fantastic, mate.
Thank you.
Right. So I'm joining you from Jersey in the Channel Islands. Small little office. It's a shared office space that I'm working from at the moment in the sunny Channel Islands. But the question, I guess, is where am I from? Well, I think South Africa is what goes through my blood. I've been in Jersey for almost 8 years. And yeah, this, I guess, is my new home. But, where do I come from? It's definitely South Africa, all the way down in Cape Town.
That's interesting. Both South Africa and Jersey, they're interesting places. In fact, I always thought that you belong to UK and that's where you are from and that's where you stay. But clearly, neither is that where you're from, nor is it where you live. So, how is it like living in Jersey? What sort of a place is it? How's life over there?
Jersey's a great place, especially in the summer. I think we've got some of the most beautiful beaches in the world, and like I said, I'm from Cape Town. It's stunning. It does get a little bit challenging in the winter. There's not much to do outside of work, I guess, and I think we're also quite fortunate. We get to travel quite a bit. It's a little bit frustrating. All of the flights we take, we have to connect through the UK. But other than that, it's a great little island. Everyone's very friendly. It's a little tech hub as well. They call it a little sandbox environment. So there's a lot of IoT workshops and things going on here. The whole island's connected with fiber, so it's a great place to launch any new small project in a smaller scale, and then deploy it potentially in like larger areas. So there's that benefit as well.
Interesting. And I'm guessing you must be always gunning to attend AfricaCom because that allows you to get back home.
Yeah, that's the one. And was fortunate enough actually to have the last Was event in Cape Town as well. So that was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Exactly. So, talking about events and telecom, I mean, while we understand where you're from, but how did Sergio end up into the world of CPaaS and telecom? So, tell a little bit more about your personal and professional journey.
Well, I moved over to Jersey. So Jersey's a little bit of a finance island, actually. It's only in the last, I'd say maybe 5 or 6 years that this whole tech boom started here. So I came over for a finance job all the way from Cape Town with Deutsche Bank. And that kind of didn't work out too well. There's quite strict rules on employment on the small island. And I landed up as an operator here, JT Global, more in the managed service space first, with some of the international customers in the US and then Australia. And as the wholesale unit then started to evolve into what they call the international business unit, I joined the messaging team there under Kuba. And the rest is history, really. Just, I don't know, the last 6 years of just being in or 7 years probably in the messaging space have flown by. Endless
Uh-huh.
flights, endless different places where we've met, across the world. It's been quite a journey.
I can imagine. And Kuba's a dear friend as well. So it's good that you were working with the right guy, and I'm sure you picked up all the tips and tricks of the trade once you started working with him.
Yeah, definitely. I think this industry, there's so many people you can thank along the way. I think many of us wouldn't be where we are if we didn't have the right mentors or the right opportunities. And it is very helpful. Although we all technically compete against each other, I think the knowledge share in this industry is fantastic.
Absolutely. And I must say, what is the banking industry's loss is the telecom industry's gain.
Thank you, mate.
And what's family scene like? I mean, is family back in South Africa, or I'm guessing since you've been in Jersey for so long, how's it like for them as well? How are they finding it?
Yeah, so I actually got I don't know if you want to call it luck or unlucky, but during COVID, South Africa was the Omicron. We created Omicron apparently, and I got stuck out there for 6 months. So it was very valuable time. When you move away from home, you can probably count the amount of times you see your family on your hand, like for a longer period of time. There'll always be visits and things, but if it's every year or every other year, those times are limited. So I really got to appreciate that time and enjoy Cape Town over the summer as well, and see old friends. But other than that, yeah, the family's based down there. I like to try and get there at least once a year, so it's always precious time.
Wonderful. And again, talking about your career, since you've been around in Jersey for so long, how's the journey been? Are there some memorable or impactful moments in your career that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, I think moving into the telecom space was a big change for me to really realize and see. You never think what we do and how we get to travel and places we see and people we meet and the different opportunities would be from if you're an outsider and you think, especially when I joined an operator, that's my mobile phone provider. There's so much more to the space, and especially in Jersey where there's maybe 50,000 subscribers on the JT network, or maybe a little bit less. How do you fuel a whole island? It's all the other services that they were providing, in the international space, the IoT, fraud prevention, messaging, the enterprise services. So there was a big eye opener that, I guess. But then I think probably one of my earliest, most impactful moments was when I got sent on my first international trip. Still very young, got sent to Chicago, never been to the US before. I was in the Aon building with Kraft Heinz. Kraft and Heinz had just merged. And I got to see all this crazy stuff, 78 floors up, Coming from Cape Town, I don't think there's a building more than 30 floors. And if you've been to the top, that's an experience, right? So that was probably one of the big moments to see that, wow, there's a whole nother world here.
Yeah, I remember for me also personally, when I started my career in telecoms, it was a Tata Communications, and my manager was based in Montreal. So that was the first time I actually went that far off from home, and yep, that it's been a learning experience, and so I can totally resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, no, it's really we're really fortunate to be able to go on these trips and meet all of these people around the world. At one stage, I've met certain people in the industry more than I've seen my own family back home in different countries around the world. In some of the busy years.
I think I agree with you on that, and I think in some ways I've seen that this industry is so close knit that so many of the industry folks start becoming almost like, close families. So I can totally understand that as well.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's a special place. I do like it.
Awesome. So now, Sergio, we move a little bit more towards the human side of things beyond work. So you've always been a very fascinating personality, and to be honest, we've not interacted too much. I'm sure many of our listeners have, but if there is something shocking that nobody knows about Sergio, what would that be?
I think, especially because right now there's still probably just a lot of people listening that are from the industry. I know it's going to grow to a much wider audience. So it always catches everyone out a bit when I start speaking German. So I'm a bit of a hybrid. I've got a South African mom, Portuguese dad, Swiss grandfather from my mom's side. So I've landed up in the German school, the German International School in Cape Town, all my
Hmm.
schooling career. So I speak German to quite a few of industry partners and friends when we're away, but it's quite a shock to quite a few people with a Portuguese name, South African accent, and then the fluent in German.
And based in Jersey.
And based in Jersey, yeah, correct.
You're what they'll call a poster boy of a multinational personality.
Yeah, some special fusion mix.
I'm sure an especially eclectic mix for sure. So, Sergio, what does this multinational personality do to recharge himself? What are your passions? What are your interests? What is it that excites you?
I've always been quite active and sporty, so I do really like the ocean and the beach. So I'm very lucky here in the summer in Jersey. Jersey's very small, right? It's 9 by 5 miles. So even the remote office that I work from here now, if I wanted to after work, within 5 minutes I could be on a stunning beach, right? Um, the interesting thing about Jersey, though, if you want to get to the beaches, you have to check out the tide times. So it's got the second largest tidal range. So in the morning, there could be a kilometer of sand, and you come back in the evening or 6 hours later, and the beach is completely full of water. So up to 12-meter tidal ranges. So you got to plan that. But I like spending time down there, socializing with friends. And recently, I've taken up a bit of boxing, let out a bit of the frustration, you know?
Hmm. And how's that been going for you?
It was going really well for the first start of the year, and as we discussed recently, we've been trying to talk for a while now. I've just popped my shoulder out, so let's see what the physio says on Friday. But we'll continue to get going on that as soon as we can.
Also, the shoulder injury was because of a boxing match.
No, boxing training. Yeah, I'm hoping to do a white collar fight soon. So let's see. We can maybe live stream it.
I'm sure. So, Sergio, here onwards, we play a couple of games, and I put up a couple of things to my guests, and we see what they have to say. So, the first one is that I'm gonna say 5 words, and I want you to say what's the first thing that comes to your mind. So, as I say to all my guests, that be spontaneous, be human, be original. So, whatever comes first to your mind, we'd love to hear what that is. So, are you ready for that?
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it.
Awesome. So the first one is telecom.
Travel.
Fair enough. You just told about that. Motivation.
Oh, it has to be David Goggins.
Okay. And what's that about?
David Goggins. He's a crazy Marine SEAL that's broken the pull-up records, and if you just follow him on social media, he's just a crazy guy. And you always, if you don't feel like doing something and you click on one of his pages, he just keeps on shouting, "Stay hard!" And he's just a crazy athletic sports person now as well. But he's done multiple different Marine tours and things like that. So he's quite motivating. He doesn't give up, basically.
Interesting. I guess I have something new to check out too. Okay. The next one is family.
Cape Town and home, I guess. I think I can associate family with Cape Town and home.
Fair enough. The next one is career.
I think growing people, and just back to my previous point on that one. I don't think I'd be here if it wasn't for many key individuals, like whether it be either working under them or even partner companies, that have guided me, helped me. So, from a career point of view, growing people.
Fair enough. I guess through our industry, I think there are so many people who have helped us out. And I think the best way we can thank them is by returning the favor and passing it down the road with the individuals we interact with.
That's correct.
And the last one is podcast.
Well, this is a very interesting one because I follow only three podcasts, right? The first one is for a while now, Joe Rogan, but they're very, very long. I don't know if a lot
Uh-huh.
of people are into that. I've got
Mhm.
three thumbnails on my Spotify. It's the Diary of a CEO,
Uh-huh.
and it's this one here, my friend. So those are my top three listens.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think even I've heard a bit of the Joe Rogan podcast. I think that guy's fantastically popular. But yeah, I think the podcasts get a bit long at time, but they're still interesting listens. So I can totally understand you liking those ones as well.
Yeah, there's the Diary of a CEO one. I think keeps it quite entertaining. I think he's also trying to answer a lot of questions for himself as he goes along. So if he's got that platform, why not?
Absolutely. Okay. So now in the next one, I'm gonna ask you to tell me three statements. two of them have to be a truth each, and one of them has to be a lie. And I'm hoping that, given your exciting, multifaceted personality, you definitely have something interesting for us. So, would you have three such statements for us?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Let me get going. Okay, so the first one, I've climbed Mount Everest.
Okay.
I have a pet cat named Whiskers, and I've used ChatGPT to prompt these questions.
Sergio, this I'm hoping it's a simple one. I typically lose in this round, but I'm gonna give it a shot and say you've not climbed Mount Everest.
Yeah, I've not climbed Mount Everest. I don't plan to either.
Interesting. So, why did somebody as interesting as Sergio need the help of ChatGPT? Okay, let's hear more about that. Do you often use AI for other aspects in life as well?
Well, I wanted to bring it up because I hope maybe in the following podcast someone can talk about it in a bit more detail because I haven't found, and maybe people are going to laugh at me, one useful point to use ChatGPT for, except for asking like absolutely silly questions. I've yet to use any AI or any ChatGPT to give me some like additional assistance at work. I've prompted it, write an email, but to be honest, I think it's too generic. A lot of the things, I still think that human touch, right, is very important, and our industry, especially, such strong relationships are built, and a lot of business is done through that. So I hope it doesn't take over. Um, Maybe it can manage some rates and some routing one day. I'm sure someone's got that down already.
Well, so interestingly for me, recently I gave it a shot and I asked ChatGPT that tell me which are. So I gave a list of operators and I said segregate these by which are standalone operators and which are group operators. And very soon it started publishing the data, and I thought, wow, this seems to be way too accurate. So I think it was reasonably okay on the group operators, but then on the standalones, it started mentioning all the Vodafone properties, the Telenor properties. So that's when I realized that, okay, I think AI still has a long way to go, and I'm hoping that our jobs are not under threat, at least as of yet.
Yeah, I don't think ChatGPT can get stuck on a British Airway flight for like 12 hours before you get to your event. So I can.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is about, right? The human
Yeah,
side of things. So I think we all need that human touch amongst us.
yeah, let's keep it like that for a while at least.
Absolutely. And the next one is that I'm guessing in the middle of all your boxing and taking 12-hour long flights, there must be some time you must be getting to even read and watch stuff. So, would you have a favorite book or a movie or both? And which ones would they be? And is there any character in that which you'd like to play?
So on the book one, this is one that I actually made a point of trying to remember many years ago because I've read quite a few books over the years. I'm very bad at remembering the names and the authors, but one that's really stuck with me is The Chimp Paradox by Dr. Steve Peters. And this actually came recommended by one of my mentors in the industry. And it's all about your mind management and understanding about how you do things and why you feel a certain way and how to act. And I think I've probably read about 50 of these self-help books, but this is one that actually it makes it relatable. So, you read the book and you go, oh, wow, is that why I'm acting like that? Or is that why I behaved like that? And it's often hard to take the time to go back and reflect. But if you are able to do it, I think it's quite cool. So that's the book. And then, my love for the ocean and the sea. And when I was growing up, actually, in Cape Town, I spent some summers as a lifeguard on the beach many, many years ago. So the movie is it's called The Guardian. It's got Ashton Kutcher and Kevin Costner in it,
Hmm.
um, and they're part of the U.S. Coast Guard. And I think it maybe just came out at the time when I was very into these things. But there's a lot of action in it, some drama, but it just also shows a lot of like the camaraderie and the rigorous training. And again, I guess that's some form of motivation or something. And the swimming part, yeah, those are my two. The movie's not that exciting, but if you got time to watch it, I think you should.
And how is life as being a Coast Guard? Any interesting experiences in that stint?
Yeah, well, how I don't know, saving life. How rewarding would that be, right? And how brutal the oceans and things are. Like no one's willing to do something like that. I think you have to be quite a big person to put your own life on the line, right?
Absolutely. I totally agree. Cool. So that's some interesting stuff you got there. And I think I've not read that book. So I've got yet one more thing from you, which I need to check out. And I'm sure many of our listeners would do that too. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
And that brings us now to our final section, Sergio. So we have a couple of questions here which we'd like to sign off on. Firstly, as you mentioned that you do take those 12-hour flights, right? So, which are some of the conferences and events which you plan to attend in the next couple of weeks or months? And where can one get to meet Sergio?
Well, it's back. It was a little bit quiet now. Well, not that quiet, but it's back to silly season for events, I think. So, not 100% confirmed. There's a lot of travel disruptions, but I might pop over to the capacity messaging event in a couple weeks' time. But I'll definitely be in Madrid. That's one of my
Right.
favorites of the year. We'll be at the next Was as well. That will be in Croatia. I think that's the end of October. And then, like you mentioned, back to the hometown, AfricaCom. So hopefully we'll see a lot of faces yourself in Madrid. I know that really brings in the crowds, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think each of these events brings in a lot of crowd, and
Yeah.
it's interesting how you often get to see the same people at a couple of events. So, I think it's good fun because that allows us to always keep connecting at a constant human level, and that's so important in this industry.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited for the Madrid one. I missed it last year. Was in Cape Town, and it really, I think a lot of people get to that one that maybe don't go to as many events throughout the year. So it's always good to see friends and partners and things.
Wonderful. And we're on to our last question, which is the signature question. What does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
I had to think about that for quite a while because I do know that is a signature question. But I'd like to have shared something, at least with a few people, that they could remember me by. I always want to go back to how this industry's been so kind to me, at least along the way. A lot of people, everyone goes through a lot of things. We don't really know what's going on in people's lives. So I think it's very important to be kind, take those things into consideration, and share whatever you can. The knowledge is there. We got AI, people can have access. So why not do it with a friendly face yourself?
Absolutely. So I think, as we discussed, that I don't think AI will easily replace this human touch, and I think empathy, especially, is one area of the human characteristic, which is not something that is so easily replicable by technology. So very well said.
Thank you.
So on that note, Sergio, thank you so much for your time. It was an interesting conversation. One learned so many new things about you, and I do hope that we get to meet at one of the events soon, mate.
Yeah, please, yeah, stay in touch. I know you're a busy, man. Look, we're recording this from two very far places away. Um, so hopefully we'll be in person soon talking about it.
I'm sure I would love to do that. So, on that note, once again, thanks a lot for your time, Sergio. And to all our wonderful listeners here, thanks a lot for tuning into the show. We hope this episode gave you a good glimpse of the human side of Sergio. Somebody who's much more than just being a man from Jersey, somebody who's grown up in South Africa, knows German and whatnot, a truly multinational and a truly multifaceted personality, a boxer, an old time Coast Guard, and also somebody who likes to treat his industry colleagues as friends and family and takes them along with him. So, if you like this episode, then do stay tuned in because we shall soon be releasing yet another one and another compelling story from the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, this is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.